Tech Central.
This is Tech Radio. All things computers, gadgets and web happening right now in Ireland. Hear us anytime on iTunes or download from Techcentral.ie.
Tech Central.
How you doing? This is Dusty Rhodes and welcome to Tech Radio with all the latest in tech from around Ireland and across the world. Remember, tons of ways of getting our show. You can download directly from our website at Techcentral.ie. Use a smartphone podcast app.
This is Tech Central, your weekly tech podcast from Ireland's Techcentral.ie.
Tech Central.
As well as talking about operating systems and gadgets and the web, we love looking into the future. And today we're looking at how tech will change our shopping experience in years to come. An expert futurologist in this area is Howard Saunders from the company 22nd and 5th. And Niall had a most interesting chat with him about how our shopping habits are going to change in the next 10 years.
This afternoon I'm speaking with retail futurist and the founder of 22nd and 5th, Howard Saunders. And I suppose let's just jump into it, Howard, because we're talking today about sort of the future of retail and whatever forms it may take. So when we talk about futurology, there are certain emerging technologies that we love to talk about. For example, big data, drone delivery, 3D printing, self-driving cars. These are all things that are either on the horizon or with us. So which ones do you think are actually going to, for want of an easier phrase, actually land with us, or which are going to be sort of, okay, it's been tried and it didn't quite stick with us?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure I have all the answers, but I think I call my talk The Future is Scary. Thefutureisscary.com actually will take you to all my blogs. But the truth is, I think as retailers, we're terrified at the moment, because we're inundated with all this. Every day you open the papers, there's another thing about robots taking our jobs and drone deliveries, like you say, and even driverless cars. It's putting people out of work, and our city centres are going to be abandoned because we're all ordering online, and Amazon's taking over everything and is now in grocery shopping, and they can deliver within the hour, and it goes on and on and on. And what we're not hearing is the other side of that. So whilst let's talk directly about the things that will happen. Yes, there are people introducing facial recognition software. The Amazon are looking very closely, as with Google, at drone deliveries. But the truth is, the facial recognition software, I don't know if you've ever been through an airport and experienced it, it's pretty poor technology. It will get better, but there's no replacement for humans and human contact and being really recognised. So there's, as I said today, humanity kind of trumps everything. Drone deliveries, well, regulations will come in and stop that. We can't have bats flying through the high streets all trying to tap on the windows of various high-rise. It's not going to happen like that. That doesn't mean to say drone delivery will never happen. It won't happen en masse in our urban centres. What were the other things we talked about?
Well, one thing that, sorry, just to jump in and cut across you, one thing that I really thought was interesting is your idea of addressing the problem of how to get people out of their bedrooms, particularly young people who are used to stuff just coming to them, used to engaging with brands online through their smartphones and not really having to get out of the house. Do you find that this is a generational problem, or do you think this is just people are slowly becoming accustomed to it thanks to, we'll say, the arrival of the smartphone or the tablet?
Becoming accustomed to it, yes. I think this is the future. You're not going to change them, and I'll explain why. I think we are now. We have this little screen, as I call God, in our pockets, the great overlord of data. We each have this little machine. Forget phone. It's got nothing to do with being a phone. It connects us to all human knowledge. And the truth is, when your children are at the table staring at their phones, they're not escaping the universe. They're staring into the universe. They're connecting with friends. They're exchanging information and ideas, and they're looking at what their friends are up to and where they are on the planet. That's more connected, not less. In the real world, they've just got their mum and dad sitting opposite them with frown looks telling them to eat their greens. So that's why they'll do it. And the truth, I know I'm ranting at this, but the truth is the future gets the people it deserves. This is a difficult thing for us to understand, is that we're judging on the next up-and-coming generation by our standards. And the truth is that the 6-year-old staring at her phone, her boss in the future will also have been staring at their phone, will also have been doing the same things. We can't change the future any more than you could drag someone from 1765, drag a brilliant mathematician from 1765 and drop them into Ernst & Young now. They'd be utterly useless. The future gets the people it needs by definition. So we are going to be looking at screens of some sort, information of some sort forevermore. We are now homo distracted. That is a fact. I don't think you can change that. But there's an awful lot of good that comes from that. So we're now connected more than ever before. Our expectations have risen. And you have to understand why perhaps we call them millennials and Gen Zers are a bit bored with the world as it is now. But that won't stay that way. And if you take those millennials, I have a couple, as I said, I have a brace of millennials. If you actually examine their behaviour, yes, they do spend a lot of time staring at the phone in their bedrooms, but they also go to more concerts now than ever before, more festivals. They all want to go to these food festivals. My daughter's nagging me at the moment to take her to one. They're forever out in social spaces. And that's because innately and fundamentally, humans are a social species. And we will always
think it's that sort of... not so much the fear of having something, but the fear of missing out is really sort of becoming people's define. Yes.
Yeah, FOMO is immensely important, and I think it's probably been intensified, as I say, by the phone. We have to use that in inverted commas, and we probably will call it a phone forevermore, even though it's not a phone. The phone landing at the same time as the crash, telling us that we're at the centre of the universe. It brings everything to us. I mean, think about it just for a minute. Pre-smartphone, not so long ago, we used to have to wait to see what the news was at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night. We would have to consult Encyclopedia Britannica in a library. We would have to wait to see what the top 20 records that we should be listening to are. Hilarious, being sent to us, and so that we could stand there at the altar of this great world of knowledge. Now it all comes to us. We're in control now. So we decide who gets famous. We upload our own information to Wikipedia, if you like, to become 1 billion times bigger than Encyclopedia Britannica, certainly thousands of times bigger. We're in control now. That's an immensely powerful position, and therefore our expectations have risen markedly.
Just to feed this into the world of retail now, seeing as, we have this connectedness, we probably have these sort of more intimate relationship with brands than perhaps we had before. But that has sort of brought with it a downside, particularly when it comes to the world of the shopping malls, sort of the mega malls on the end of town. Are they on the way out?
Short answer is yes. I mean, I referenced today a thing called dead malls. Dead malls. The Americans say mall, so I spent 5 years in the US. I kind of never quite sure which way to say it, but deadmalls.com, or on YouTube there's a channel, and this guy's been following shopping centres that are like moribund, dying or dead, and he breaks into the dead ones and he films the moribund ones, and it's kind of sad and sweet, really, but it's a generational thing. It's from another era, and he talks with sort of fondness actually of the 90s and the food halls and the films that were filmed in sort of pop movies of the day that were filmed in malls. It was kind of a cool place. Well, we've moved on, and those spaces aren't interesting to us anymore, and they're not interesting. I have to say, whilst we talk about millennials a lot, one of the things I say is we're all millennials. We all wake up, the first thing we do is look at our phones. All of us. It's not just our sons and daughters that are doing it. And what's the last thing we look at night? Yes, it's the phone. And so we're all millennials in some way, and we're all bored of the same old, and that includes shopping, mid-market shopping centres. It includes films. I think we're bored of the same superhero movies. We're bored with politics, and we could get into a whole debate about that. We're trying to disrupt that at the moment. It's incredible. We're in a new phase. We're in what I call the me age, and we want different things.
And when we're talking about the me age, what I think is very interesting about your idea there, it's anyone can be the model, anyone can be the star, anyone can be on the billboard.
Everyone is. Some of these Instagram icons, have multi-millions of followers, and they're 17-year-old girls in bedrooms in Kent, not just at US, and they have huge followings.
What does this mean when we're sort of when we're feeding it back into, again, the mega malls are on the way out? What replaces them? Is there still a hard sell, or do you buy into the brand as a philosophy or a lifestyle?
Well, all of that, yeah. I mean, two things I'd say. One, the future never gets here. It's a rolling story, funnily enough. And it's always a mix. It's yin-yang, it's always a mix. So, yes, you're going to see, I think, the good news is lots of independence. We're going to have to build a model, like I said, that allows more of those guys to come through with new ideas. And then the big money players, the big brands, the Nikes and the sports brands, as well as the Samsungs and the electronics brands, can create these brand playgrounds that allow us to just hang out in their spaces and fall in love and try stuff. And more brands are going to be coming online trying that. So it's going to be a mix. And combined to that, markets. I mean, the huge rise, I can't emphasize this enough, the huge rise in the number of markets. And what I mean by that is food markets, hipster markets, if you like, to use that awful term, where little independent guys are trying new things. This is happening right across the planet. And with all the focus in the retail press, if you like, the mainstream retail press, MSM, is focus on what the mid-market's doing and the decline of department stores and Gap and Banana Republic. And that's not where the action is. The action's at the edge of town. We've got some really exciting stuff happening and we need to encourage it and build a future whereby our city centres and town centres are a wonderful mix of big brand playgrounds, big value stores. You know, the H&M's are incredibly strong, the Primark's incredibly strong, and mix that with independent markets, artisan producers, little funny, quirky coffee shops. What a great future it is. We just need to make it happen and we need to let it happen.
Well, of course, one of the things that will drive engagement in brands going forward is big data, and it's information that we're volunteering about ourselves. 2 brands, 2 marketers. Do you think people will get a lot more savvy about this as they go along, or do you think people start to see the value in it more?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I arrogantly argue that once you see the benefits, you worry all the theories of and the concerns about data protection and security evaporate largely. Think about Uber. You know, its success has not been hindered by the fact that we think they know everything about us and they report on us after each trip, because the benefits coming the other way were remarkable. You know, they kind of knew who you were, they trusted you, they treated you with a bit of respect. So that's the future I foresee, certainly one that I'd like to encourage, whereby we're known, we're not invisible anymore, we're not anonymous anymore. When you walk into spaces, let's take it away from retail, walk into a hospital, there will be no excuse anymore for them to say, oh, we can't find your file. They will know who you are, they'll have your records, and by submitting some of that, allowing more of that data to get out there, we will get more benefit. And those that hang on to it will see, they'll eventually give in because they'll see the benefits moving the other way, I think. Ultimately, I'm an optimist, and I have to try and, because I think that the truth, if I rant a bit more, the truth about the future is we're always worried. That's why I called this thing The Future is Scary. We're always worried. The negative gravity towards any sort of sense of prediction is naturally there. And I'd give an example, if you don't mind me going off on one, about Halley's Comet. Halley's Comet has been circling the Earth for millions of years, probably, someone might correct me, every 76 years, and there is evidence going back generations, going back millennia, going back through various civilizations that have spotted it. And not one civilization thought, oh, that means a better crop next year. They all thought it meant lack of fertility or a bad crop and chopped the heads off their children or burnt goats or whatever they did. That is a fact. You can check it out. So why? Why are we so scared of the future? The truth is that the evidence suggests that things won't be like that, that the future will be, largely will resolve lots of these issues, and the more information that's out there about us will probably benefit us on the whole. There are, of course, the downside of that. We could get into a big argument about that, but on the whole, we won't be anonymous anymore, and I think that has to be a good thing for us as individuals and as customers.
And that was Niall Kitson chatting to Howard Saunders from 22nd and 5th. And you can find out more about him and our retail future at www.22and5.com. Use the actual numbers in that URL, www.22and5.com. That's about it for this week. Remember, you can get more on Howard and also on Google In Out, and of course all the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters and more from Techcentral.ie, as well as our weekly tech radio show here online and every Friday at 6pm on DAB digital radio with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, thanks so much for listening. Have a great weekend.
Get Tech Radio. Subscribe for free with iTunes or download on demand at Techcentral.ie. Tech Radio is produced by digitalaudioproductions.com.
Techcentral.